The cameras were already rolling, the footage already existed, and in every single case on this list, the seconds before impact were captured. On CCTV, on dashcams, on data recorders that never lie. These were the biggest names in the world, and the footage shows exactly what went wrong. So, why do investigators say some of these crashes still don't add up? The road does not care how famous you are. Sam Kinison had spent years making America laugh until it hurt. Loud, raw, and impossible to ignore. By 1992, he had finally cleaned himself up. He was sober, newly married, headed toward the next chapter of his life. Then, on April 10th, on a Mojave Desert highway, a teenage driver veered into oncoming traffic and hit his car head-on. Witnesses saw everything. Paramedics reached him, still breathing, but barely. Those nearby said they heard him speaking in his final moments, as if arguing with something no one else could see. He was 38, and the road took him anyway. Jane Mansfield was dazzling, fearless, and impossible to ignore. In the early hours of June 29, 1967, her car pushed through a fog-covered Louisiana highway toward a television appearance in New Orleans. Ahead, a mosquito-fogging truck crept slowly through the dark. The fog swallowed the road whole. Her driver never saw it. The car drove straight under the trailer at full speed. The roof sheared off in an instant. In the back seat, her 3 young children survived, asleep and untouched. In the front, no one did. Today, every truck on the highway carries a mandatory rear safety guard named after her. The road kept moving. She did not. What were the warning signs everyone around Grace Kelly had already seen? And why did no one stop her from getting behind that wheel? Grace Kelly had left Hollywood behind for a real palace and a real crown. She was Princess of Monaco, beloved across 2 continents and one of the most photographed women in the world. On September 13th, 1982, she was driving along a steep mountain road above Monaco with her daughter Stephanie in the passenger seat. Witnesses on the road that morning later told investigators the car had been moving strangely, drifting, slowing, then accelerating unpredictably. What none of them knew was that Grace had suffered a small stroke behind the wheel. Her body was already shutting down while her hands were still on the wheel. The car went over the edge of the mountain and fell more than 120 feet. Stephanie survived with injuries. Grace never regained consciousness. She died the following day from a brain hemorrhage. The mountain road was familiar to her. She had driven it many times, but on that morning, her body gave out before anyone could do anything. And the footage that investigators pieced together from the crash site told a story no one at the palace had expected to hear. She had not lost control. She had simply stopped being able to fight. Before this gets any darker, hit subscribe, because the next crashes on this list were caught on actual cameras, and what they recorded is something investigators are still talking about today. Ryan Dunn was the kind of person who made danger look like a game. As one of the core members of Jackass, he had built an entire career on surviving things that should have killed him. Broken bones, fire, physical chaos, it was all part of the act. Audiences loved him for it because he never seemed to flinch. But on the night of June 20th, 2011, there were no cameras rolling for a stunt. There was only a Porsche 911 GT3, a wet road in West Goshen, Pennsylvania, and a blood alcohol level that investigators later confirmed was nearly twice the legal limit. CCTV footage from the bar where Dunn had spent the evening showed him arriving in good spirits and leaving well after midnight. The footage was time-stamped. The crash site was less than 2 miles away. His car hit a guardrail, launched into the woods, and struck a tree with enough force that it was nearly unrecognizable as a vehicle. Investigators estimated the car was traveling between 130 and 140 miles per hour at the point of impact. A passenger died alongside him. The crash site burned for hours. The next morning, when photos of the wreckage circulated, it was nearly impossible to believe that what remained had once been a car. Roger Ebert wrote something on Twitter that day that ignited a firestorm, suggesting that friends should not let friends drive drunk. The internet turned on him instantly, but the CCTV footage never changed. The timestamp never moved, and the tree is still standing in those woods today. How do you watch someone walk out of a bar and onto a road they'll never come back from, and not know it was the last time you'd see them alive. Lindsay Lohan had been one of the most promising young actresses of her generation. In the mid-2000s, she was everywhere. Red carpets, magazine covers, box office hits. And then the cracks began to show in places cameras were not supposed to reach. Between 2007 and 2012, she was involved in multiple crashes, police encounters, and court appearances that played out entirely in public. In August 2010, paparazzi footage captured her car clipping another vehicle on a Los Angeles street. In June 2012, surveillance cameras at a film studio captured the moment her black Porsche struck a truck. The footage showed the impact clearly, a glancing blow at low speed, but one that brought police to the scene and added another chapter to a story the public was already exhausted by. What made Lohan's story different from a simple tabloid spiral was the visible gap between the girl audiences had fallen in love with and the woman those cameras kept finding. The footage was clinical, cold, and unmerciful in the way surveillance always is. It did not capture glamour. It captured someone in the middle of losing something that fame could not replace. And yet, even as the footage piled up, the public kept watching. They always do. Was it too late for someone to step in? Or had the cameras already answered that question for everyone watching? Tracy Morgan had spent 30 years making people laugh. On the streets of New York, on Saturday Night Live, on 30 Rock, in ways that felt like they came from somewhere genuine and worn in. On the night of June 7th, 2014, he was riding in a Mercedes-Benz limousine on the New Jersey Turnpike, heading home after a show, when a Walmart tractor-trailer slammed into the back of his vehicle at 65 miles per hour in a construction zone where the speed limit was 45. The truck's electronic logging device told the story in numbers. The driver, Kevin Roper, had been awake for 28 consecutive hours. He had driven 800 miles from his home in Georgia to reach his shift before ever starting his route. The dashcam footage captured the moment of impact, the limo lurching forward, the chain reaction crash pulling in 6 other vehicles, the whole thing unfolding in a handful of seconds that would take Morgan years to recover from. His friend and fellow comedian James McNair died at the scene. Morgan spent 8 days in a coma. When he woke up, he could not see. He spent months in a wheelchair learning to walk again. The settlement that followed was reported to exceed $90 million, but no number could cover what was captured on that dashcam and in those data logs, the story of a man who was simply too tired to stop. James Dean was only 24 years old when he became the kind of star Hollywood spends decades trying to manufacture. In East of Eden and Rebel Without a Cause, he had done something rare. He had made the audience feel like they were watching a real person think, hurt, and survive on screen. By September 1955, 2 of his most important films